Okay, this first lesson, is 2.1, and we're talking about debit versus credit. So this unit 2 is going to be all about credit. This first one is kind of just an introduction for you, and then next two we'll have to do more with some numerical calculations, right? We're going to look at some credit card bills and kind of how some of the numbers there are calculated, as well as finance charges to go along with your bills. So for this warm activity, there is a YouTube video that I linked there that talks about credit and debit cards. However, I wanted to review with you kind of what you should have seen from that. So it says we're going to put an X in the column, whether it's a debit, credit card, or both, and then decide if it's a cost, a disadvantage, or a benefit. Okay, an advantage. So when money is borrowed and repaid at a later date, they say it is a credit card. If money is automatically taken out of your checking or savings account, we're talking about a debit card here. So that's the big difference between credit and debit. Credit, you're borrowing. Debit, you have, and it's literally being taken out. Great for emergency situations. They're talking about a credit card here. And in general, I'd say that's a good thing, right? So if your car all of a sudden broke today and you needed it repaired, you could just go get it repaired and put on the credit card and then worry about it later. Obviously, there are some downsides to that too, right? That you're spending money that you don't have. And it is possible, right, that you may have that money in your account, and if you do, you could use your debit card. Okay, your client card will get declined if there's not enough money in the account. That is a debit card. And I'd say, in general, that's kind of embarrassing, so I'd think about that as a negative. However, that is good that you're not spending more money than you have. And technically, sometimes they do let you have overdraft, so you could spend more money. Your credit card also can get declined as well, but that's when you're spending more money than what you are allowed to spend, what your allowance is. Okay. Extra perks. Generally, most credit cards do. I have seen debit cards that have them now too, but they'll be like, hey, you earn miles such that you can travel with these miles, or hey, you earn cash back. In general, I'd say that's a good thing, right? You may receive money from the ATM. Usually when you go to an ATM, you're pulling things out with your debit card. I think it's always good to be able to pull out the money you have, right? Both, I would say, are convenient. Always nice to have things that are convenient. Both are also secure, right? That's a good thing. They're going to have some protection against them being stolen, etc. You may pay late fees with a credit card if you don't make payments on time. I think anytime you pay a fee, not the best thing. You got a negative there. No interest. Debit cards do not have interest. It's only credit cards that have interest. So I'd say that's a good thing to not have interest. You're not getting charged extra. Both can replace cash. That can definitely be a good thing, right? Credit cards are the only ones that are going to really affect your credit score. And that can be a good or a bad, depending on whether or not you are building good or bad credit. Both have fraud protection, which I'd say is a good thing. And your credit card is probably more likely to cause you unnecessary debt, which I'd say debt is generally a bad thing. This Venn diagram below is just another way to look at what we wrote above, but, has it organized a different way. You can kind of see a little bit easier what applies to both, etc. Okay, so let's talk about what credit is. Credit is money that a business or lender will allow a person to borrow when you buy something and you pay later. Why is it important to have good credit or a good credit score? The reason why you'd want good credit or credit score is that you can borrow larger amounts of money. You can borrow money cheaper, so at a lower interest rate. You can get it more easily, right? You can go in and try to buy a car today and they'll just give it to you because you could get a loan for it versus having to kind of wait. And it's often used by landlords when selecting a renter. So hey, it may help you find places to live. So let's talk about what a credit score is. A credit score is the total number of points that measure your risk of paying lenders back. The points are earned for good credit decisions and are taken away for bad credit choices. When your credit points are added up, they are converted into a rating known as your credit score, right? Your credit score is commonly known as a FICO score. So basically, this is like kind of our society's system of deciding, who should have loans and what is your liability of being able to pay that back. Your credit score is affected by 5 areas. There's a little pie chart over here on the right that helps you see what percent each of those areas are. But the first one is payment history. So, are you making your payments? Are they on time? How much are you paying, etc. How much you owe is literally saying like, hey, if you maybe owe on a house, maybe you owe $300,000, right? Whereas if you just have a credit card, maybe you just have like $2,000. Or if you have a car, maybe you got $10,000. How much money do you owe? And it could be an accumulation of all of those. The next one is the length of your credit history. So how long maybe you've had a credit card or a loan, etc. Number 4 is new credit. So every time you apply for credit, whether that be a credit card or a loan, they're going to kind of do an inquiry and that will affect things. And the last one is the type of credit. So maybe you've got like a student loan. Maybe you've got like a house mortgage, right? Maybe you have a credit card. All of those are going to be different types of credit. And then what they do with that is they convert that information into a rating. So if you look over here, particularly on the right, you've got these list of scores. I expect you, if I give you a score, like let's say I say a score of 700. If someone has a 700 credit score, that's between 661 and 780, they have good credit, right? Whereas if I asked you for someone who had poor credit, they'd be between a 501 and 600, so scores like 530 or 689 or 589 or 540 or 561 are all going to be examples of poor credit. Okay, last but not least here, who keeps track and maintains your credit history and score? The credit bureaus are the ones who do that, and those are 3 there that do it. Each credit bureau collects information that they think is important in identifying a person's credit worthiness and provides a score. The credit bureau issues credit reports to lenders or others, which are used to determine a person's credit risk. How likely a person will pay back the money borrowed. Everyone is allowed to view their own credit reports, and it's wise to check your credit report to make sure there's no errors or fraudulent use of your credit. All right. Hopefully this lesson taught you a little bit about what credit is, particularly your credit score and kind of how that works. And you should be all set to start your 2.1 homework. Good luck.